Happy Earth Day, everybody. Inspired by Brian over at Automate Your Life, I've taken up the Earth Day Energy Challenge, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing in my smart home to save a little bit of money and do what's good for our planet. Hey everyone, Chris Young here from HomeKit Geek, the channel will bring you smart home content on whatever I find interesting, mostly HomeKit, but lately I've found myself really diving deeper into Home Assistant for some good reasons, and one of the main reasons behind that is the ability to do historical analysis on what's going on in my smart home. So when I got this invitation from Brian to participate in the Earth Day Challenge, this was a perfect time to really dive deep into the Home Assistant platform and hopefully share with you guys some interesting ideas on how to save money, but also do what's good for the planet. So in this video, I've taken things a little bit farther than the average bear, right? This has been one of the main reasons that I wanted to get into smart home originally, was to figure out what can I do to be more energy efficient, do what's right for the planet, leave it better off than I got here, leave something for my kids, all those kinds of good things, right? So early on, I've invested in a whole bunch of equipment that's around the house. So for this particular video, I didn't actually spend any additional money. I just used things that were around my house and in my environment. Like many of you out there, being able to do something and be a little more energy efficient, give back a little to the environment, was one of the reasons I got into the smart home to begin with, and found out that there was some problems with that. One of the main problems is that I have all these different smart plugs from different vendors, and they all work a little differently. They do great on their own, but to be able to pull all the data together, which is what I was looking for, I needed to do something different. And that led me to the Sense Home Energy Monitoring System, which I'll put a video up here on a review I did, honestly, a couple of years back. And after having lived with it for a couple of years, Sense is a really great platform to give you a consolidated view of what's going on in your environment. It allows you to potentially monitor things that you really wouldn't have any other reasonable way to do. Things like your hot water tank or any other large spike energy, even your dryers, things like that. So the Sense will actually have a couple of clips, of monitoring clips, that go onto your mains power and start to identify these things using machine learning, artificial intelligence, whatever we want to call it these days. It uses that to identify these devices, and if you have selected the right equipment, you can also bring those directly into your Sense and be able to start manipulate them a little bit. So the Sense platform is a great platform, and it gives you a holistic view of the whole house. It tells you how everything is going, total power draw, all of those things. But honestly, I encountered the same problem in the opposite direction that I had with smart plugs. The smart plugs gave me one small view of the world and didn't give me anything larger than that, couldn't bring any of the data together. The Sense, on the other hand, gave me the large view of the world, but didn't give me any of the mid-level data. So I needed to look for something else, which is where I dug into my Home Assistant platform. I was in the middle of a little break from YouTube, and Brian contacted me, which gave me the inspiration to dive back into this video. And really, I've spent the last few months kind of focusing on my Home Assistant setup to really get the most I could out of my energy savings. So what did that look like? Well, first I had to do a room-by-room cleanup of all of my smart plugs. So I started investing years ago on the Kasa HS300 power strip. This is a 6-plug power socket, individual energy monitoring, plus 3 USB chargers. So as far as I can tell, for bang for the buck, at about $60, $70 US piece, these have really been something that I've put all over my house, and I've invested in a lot of them over the years. In fact, I've invested in approximately 40 of them around my house. Now, not all of them are full, but what it does is it gives me individual socket control out of all of the devices, and really allows me to not have to think about that AI machine learning piece on the Sense.com. I can just tell it exactly what's plugged in there. The other thing that's really great about these products is they allow local control from Home Assistant. I don't have to do anything. They're just discovered automatically, and then all of those are created as entities within Home Assistant. So after going and cleaning them up, which took a while, as you can imagine, as I've even forgotten where I had some of these things plugged in. I had 40 of them around the house. Think of that in terms of 6 sockets times 40. That's 240 devices I had to verify before I could even get started on this project. So this is the beauty of Home Assistant. I can pull all the data together. I can use something like Node-RED to aggregate it based on all the devices in a specific room. And then I can spit out a number to say, what's my max power? What is my min power, average power values, all of those kinds of things. And do that over a time series database, which allows me to pull in and kind of identify who the big power hogs were in my house and see if I have an opportunity to save some money. Now that I've got some monitoring, I've got the room by room all put in, my next step was to identify opportunities for savings. Now there's some in here that are really simple right off the bat. If we're all sleeping, turn off the power in the common areas. We don't need it. You don't need that TV sucking power when no one's going to be watching it. The lights don't need to be connected to the Wi-Fi network when there's nobody in the room. You might leave one or two on just in case connected to a motion sensor, but for the most part, you can get some pretty significant savings by simply turning devices off by whatever bedtime is in your house, but to whatever time they wake up in the morning. In my case, between 11 to 7 a.m., and that's a full 8 hours of savings where you're not going to be running those devices. Now that might not seem like a lot, but if you look at that in terms of an entire year, this can add up quickly even on smaller devices. So common areas when we're all in bed, that's an easy one. The next is actually the exact opposite, which is bedrooms. Commonly during the day, at least here in North America, Monday to Friday, we all work or we're at school. So I now have an opportunity approximately between 9 o'clock and say 3:30, 4 o'clock before the kids get home, again to do the opposite that I did at night. I have an opportunity during the day to turn my kids' bedrooms off, and again, potentially that's another 7 hours of savings in those particular rooms. 7 hours a day might not seem like a lot, but again, over the period of a year, you can start get some pretty substantial savings just by taking these little actions. Now, the beautiful thing about Home Assistant is you can start to do some more interesting things by tying the different integrations together to give you more information. To give you a couple examples of things that I've done, I use the presence detection based on my son's iCloud account, i.e. whether or not he's home, to decide whether or not to even turn the devices back on. In my case, like many, I share custody with my kids. When they're at their mom's house, I don't actually need to turn power back on. So in the case of my teenage son, I'm not saving 7 or 8 hours. I just leave the devices turned off the whole week, which means I'm saving 24 hours a day for 2 full weeks a month based on our custody schedule. So look at that over the period of a year, and you'll start to be amazed at how much energy you can start saving here just based on turning off devices that aren't even on. And the last project that I want to show you guys, I even decided to take this a little bit further and trying to make my girlfriend's life a little bit easier when she's working from home during the day. Now, she doesn't always work from home, and I wanted to do something a little different and dabble with some computer vision. So I took the Dudes integration that does object recognition, pointed it at my existing outdoor camera, and I'm doing object detection to count the number of cars in the driveway. And my logic is as following. If there's one car in the driveway, then I'm the only one home. She's probably at work and I can turn off all the power in the living room. If there's 2 cars in the driveway, then I probably don't want to be turning off her music while she's trying to work away and go about her business during the day. Now, were there stumbles along the way? Absolutely. As you can see here, apparently the Dude's object recognition thinks a snowbank in Canada is actually a car. So I did have to kind of play around with this, change the area that I was detecting, all of those great things, but honestly, I enjoy doing that, and that's the beauty of the smart home world for me, while ensuring that the rest of the family isn't getting annoyed with me as I'm learning and fixing things along the way. So now for the big reveal. I've done the math here and looked at all the individual devices, and I don't know how things are going to turn up at the end of the year, but based on what I'm seeing right now, I'm saving on average approximately 20 kilowatt hours a day, which means over the course of a year, that's over 7,000 kilowatt hours, which at about 12 cents a kilowatt hour is approximately that's over $800. That is astonishing to me. The thing that is amazing to me is things that I thought were turned off and how much of an effect that has over the long term. And as Brian challenged me, I'm challenging you, dear viewers, to make small changes in your life that are good for the planet and good for your pocketbook. And I'd love to hear what you get up to in the comments below. If you made it to the end, do me a favor, consider hitting that subscribe button to be notified when new videos are added. And here should be a video that YouTube thinks you might be interested in looking at next.